Hello, welcome back to a new video. We are indeed speeding up. So today we are going to bike from Slot Zeist, which is an old home built in the 1670. And we are driving from here to Utrecht Central, central station, the train station. We are driving the wrong way around, so normally it would go from Utrecht Central Station to the location where we want to go. But I did a mistake with the camera, yeah, I had to record also our way back. Which is interesting because Google decided to route us in a totally different way back than it was when I was driving in. And I didn't want to redo it, so yeah, this is the video you're getting. In a way, it is kind of also interesting because it kind of tells you a little bit about how bicycling is in the Netherlands, especially in this area. Is that if you use Google to do your route mapping, it might give you 6 or 7 options. And I found with if you're using Google instead of something like Komoot, which you can also use, that it's more, let's say, random. Google always takes the shortest route or shows you several routes. And when I was bicycling back, I noticed that only about 40-50% of my drive back was actually following the same route, which yeah, tells you that what you are seeing is kind of random in a way that I'm not picking specifically great bicycle paths, right? So one of the reasons why we are making these videos is to show you the general status of the roads. So we are now being passed by. It's Sunday again, so we are being passed by a lot of race features, so racing bikes. I think one of them getting a flat tire in a few seconds. Or something else was wrong because he stopped quite a lot, or he stopped right in front of me. I think in a few seconds. I think over here. Yeah, see, something was up and he stopped then. But on Sundays you see them quite a lot. So on the way in, which again the video was corrupted, or not corrupted, but I made a mistake. And there was a lot of kids with parents also bicycling to the Slot Zeist. You can visit Slot Zeist. It's about 10 kilometers from Utrecht. It has a really nice train station. Funnily enough, I was today watching a video by Not Just Bikes. If you have not never seen his channel, I doubt it, but if you haven't, go visit his YouTube channel. And he has a long video today about Slot Zeist station, train station, which he finds one of the best smaller train stations, I guess, in the world. And it was indeed a very nice station. So, but Slot Zeist you can visit, just search for it, I will put it in the description. And so that might be something you visit when you're near Utrecht. And again, that's why I'm recording these videos with the new camera setup. I still haven't figured everything out, but I think it's getting better. Still need to work a little bit on the colors and how to do that in a more consistent way. But yeah, putting the camera on the front steering arm instead of the steering bar is a good idea, I think. And also it's a different camera. If you didn't watch the previous video, I replaced the camera with an Action DJI Action 4 Osmo Action 4. So I still am learning that. Before I was using Insta 360, which was more built for 360 recordings. And this fits my needs much better because it's really, I 3D printed a special mount for it, which I explained yesterday in the video. So I can click it on and just go. There's something interesting here. You notice in all my videos that we hardly use any bells. I think in this one or in the one that got lost, you hear actually someone using a dong dong, ding dong bell, a really Dutch bell. But you notice in general people don't use their bells. And the reason for it, and you also heard me doing it, and I will do it several times here. If you're behind somebody and you think that you're not being heard, one interesting trick is not to do what you do in the States. Basically, everybody sort of goes on your left, which is kind of yeah weird the first time. But one thing that many people do is just hold their feet so that the chain mechanism makes this sort of noise when you backpedal. And so lots of people, just as a small hint, before they use the bell, do that. And you already noticed previous, and I think we'll probably see it a few times here, that if people are bicycling by 2 or 3 next to each other, and you're behind them, and you do that, that they automatically go bike behind somebody, or they will just scoot over a little bit and give you room to pass. So I hardly use my bell. So don't go around and using the bell all the time. It's most of the time it's not really needed. And just be nice and polite. And again, it's a pity that we lost the previous recording. This always happens because there was some really fun clips and parts in there. But it happens. But in general, you notice that how nice people are, and yeah, on the bike, but also with the cars. So there was one when I was driving to the slot that actually, a boy gave 2 other bicycles the right of way when it was not needed, and I also stopped for the same reason, just because he was doing it, I was doing it, and there was sort of a standoff between the bicycles of who wanted to go first. So, especially on Sundays, people are nice. People are nice every time, but on Sundays you notice it more because people are not going to their work, and people are walking around and bicycling around. This is a good example. I see it's crossing, and I'm of course stopping. Actually, because Google Maps, I was taking a different route. I was actually going, where the hell do I need to go? So I should have gone right away. So I now got back on track. And this is a totally different route. I will have to, maybe I will put it in the video over here because this is a long way. Yeah, I will do that. So when I put in the video somewhere over here, I will put in 2 different tracks. The one that I drove in and the one that I drove out. And you can see that it's a different route. Because I'm pretty sure I didn't go on this path when I was driving in. Together with this camera, you can also add a GPS using a remote control. But they have not shipped it yet to me. Once that's done, I will also experiment to see if we can put the location and the speed somewhere in the picture. Not sure if that's fun, but you'll see if that works. So we are leaving Bunnik, I think, which again is a small village. And actually, on the ride in, the road was a little bit better because you noticed already, or maybe you can hear it, is that some of the asphalt is not as nice. And you can also see that this is still the gray type and not the red type, so this is probably already quite old, and at some point they will replace it with the red type. And we talked about this before. You can also see that or in here that there's lots of trees there that already are influencing the asphalt and is breaking up, and it's actually not the most fun part to ride because of that. Now I'm easily irritated if the road is not perfectly perfect, so you see that I ride a little bit on the middle of the road because there's no cars anyway. I look in the mirror, of course, to make sure that I don't see any cars. And the reason I do that is because most of the time, because of course the trees are near the bicycle path and in the middle, that any breakups are mostly on the bicycle part and not the, let's call it the car part. So except for the asphalt, you can see this is really a nice sort of road. The one coming in had more cars besides it. Nicer and safer, but this is more into nature. And if I'm not mistaken, this forest part is called Amel's Weird, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just kind of guessing by memory. But again, I didn't pick out this route. Google did it for me. And you notice, especially on Sunday, and also because it's September already, so we might get maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't know, Sundays which are still nice weather. So even more reason for people on racing bikes to go out and do their thing. Also quite a lot of people are just walking. Later when we get into the more city area, you also notice that there are quite a lot of cars around driving, because it's also something that people do on a Sunday. So it's not like there are no cars at all. It's just more separated in these types of roads. And because of the car infrastructure is actually quite good in a way, that means that these secondary roads are hardly used, or unless you're living here. Why would you? Cows. So cows today, and geese and horses and sheep. It's kind of nice if you're living in the city and within a few minutes you can see quite a lot of nature. And again, this is one of the 4 big cities in the Netherlands. It's not like a small city. And of course, like always, lots of water. I planned the Google Maps to the central station in the area, or where we go into the bicycle parking, the underground one that you can drive through, which is the biggest bicycle parking space in the Netherlands. Has 12,000 places, but it's fun to drive through. But the reason why I did it is also to test the camera, how it behaves in the darker setup of the bicycle parking area. And I continue driving, and I probably leave it into the video because I was, to be fair, kind of upset that the camera sort of made a mistake when I was sort of coming in. That I continue driving and recording a little bit, so I will probably leave that in. You always see people with bakfietsen, so like the box type of bikes. We call them bakfiets. And I think later on there's one. So this one is a good example. I hardly heard him, so I wouldn't say that I'm upset about it, but it would have been better that he would have hold his legs for like half a second or a second, because then I would have heard his and you know that somebody is behind you. And that's way less aggressive than using your bell. I understand that the sound of the surroundings is not as nice as it was before, because I was using an external microphone. And again, I'm trying to make more videos and make them less work. So this is actually the microphone which is inside the camera, which I think is doing pretty well. I might change it a tiny bit, but I'm trying to see if we can get away with not using an external microphone on the bicycle. So at this point it was kind of funny. I was wondering, because I had no idea how it was entering the city and which route it was taking. I was actually pondering if I had given in the wrong location that I Googled. So, and I would end up in a totally different place than I wanted to be. That's how different the routing was going back to the city or going from the city. And we are actually ending up in the university area, so where both the universities and the higher education facilities are, most of them in the city. Which also gives you a good idea about the bicycle paths which are over there. Of course, students are bicycling a lot, so you will notice that that's taken care of. Maybe I should go here when it's like a school day and you can see how busy it is in the morning. Might be a fun one to do. Because most of these buildings are either from a university or from higher education, engineering schools. Yeah, I will take a bicycle trip around this area, but I have to do it probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks when it's nice and it's daytime. Or the morning, I have to see what makes sense. To see how many bicycles there are around. Because I'm guessing that there's a lot of bicycles here in the morning, because students either come by bicycle or by bus. It's quite a big area, so we are still kind of skirting it now. I can't promise, but I'm guessing most of these buildings are from universities or higher education, engineering, schools, etc. The biggest one here will be the University of Utrecht. So they were working here on the traffic lights, but the traffic lights were also off. And you will notice, I think the fact that they were working there had nothing to do why the traffic lights were off. I think on Sundays you will find quite a few places where the traffic lights are just blinking orange, the middle one, because they kind of think, well, you can solve it yourself. The traffic is low enough that it can be self-regulating. See, this is the end of what they call Utrecht Science Park. And you notice, I'm guessing that's done on purpose, that these bicycle paths are quite wide. So I would not be shocked to find, let's say, 8 bicycles next to each other, so 4 one way, 4 the other way. I think that will definitely happen in the morning here. 3 or 4 next to each other would not be weird. Again, we've seen the tram yesterday, but we are next to one of the very few tram lines that we have in Utrecht. And also, this is kind of interesting that we don't see that a lot. You notice on the surface of the road, if you missed it, you can go back a little bit. The direction selection before you for bicycles, so they expect you to what we call voorsorteren, and I'm not trying to figure out what the English word for it is, but to pre-select where you're going and already go into the correct sort of a box where they prefer that you stay while waiting until the green light comes. I wouldn't say this is a boring trip, but because it's quite beautiful to look around, but there was less happening when going back than going to the place. But again, so basically what happened, I put it in the wrong setting and the whole screen was white for basically the whole recording. So it was a learning moment that I should at least look at the back of the camera after I hit record. Because my goal was to not even look at it in the beginning, just put it on the bike, click it on, press record. But I guess I should put it on, press record, and then at least watch for 2 seconds. Only at the last moment I figured out that I had to go to the right here. So in a way this is kind of interesting because this is real speed. What I mean with that is I'm not driving in an area which I already know what the route is. Google is actually telling me where to go. So that sometimes I make a small mistake or have to slow down just to make sure that I'm going in the correct direction. You hear the tires going brrr, brrr, because I don't like these tiles which I have here. I guess everybody in the Netherlands prefers the asphalt for bike paths. I'm not sure if there's... I know there are reasons why sometimes they don't use the asphalt. This is a good example. When I was driving in this part, it was using this part of the route. The other side is already asphalt and it's much nicer to bicycle on. Actually, if you're bicycling here in general, because now we are going to the new stuff, right? So there you see you already hear the sound of the biking changes quite a lot. It becomes way smoother, and it's interesting to see how much that affects your driving. It's just so much more relaxed if you are on a really good surface compared to either ones with cracks in it or even these tiles, because you feel a little bit of shaking, you hear more noise, it's less smooth. Keep in mind that the asphalt that is used in the Netherlands is not the same as the normal asphalt. It's different. It's a little bit more spongy the way that they build it, and more important, it's not that they are putting red paint on top of it. It's really true and true. The asphalt is in this case red colored. This also explain, I think I talked about that yesterday or a few days ago, that if there are bumps on the road created by the trees, for example, that they can just shave off a bit of the top layer, which is what they do then. Because otherwise, if it would just be paint, then of course you will see the black coming back in very quickly. But it doesn't happen so, because well, the whole top layer is basically this red. In the city, pretty busy road. You see there's lots of cars about. but we still hear the birds chirping. Even small buses, you can see we have buses of really small ones and quite big ones. And that's also next to that so both my sister and my mom, when they were still alive, they had a special pass because they were not well medically. You can get a pass and then you can get these special cabs, which are really inexpensive. I think there was €1.50 or €2 per trip if they want to visit me, for example. So getting somewhere, even if public transport is not available, is not that difficult. One thing I forgot to do when we are at the end of the video, I will go to the bicycling parking I talked about, but I didn't go to the other part of the station, which I did on the first recording. I started at the other side of the central station. I will do that later in one of the next videos, because then you can also see that angle of the central station area. This is quite an old area. My dad used to work here at a car company. Again, I had to search a little bit how it was going. I tried to follow. You also notice here, even on quite a busy intersection, that the traffic lights are turned off. They are not turned off, but they are blinking orange, and they go like, well, you figured out. And you notice that I made a mistake again, because I did not know how the path would go. So Google tells me I have to go in this direction, which I kind of already knew, but I'm trying to follow it because, well, it's handy if others are also using Google Maps. But it means that I did make a mistake and had to sort of wiggle a little bit. You can see that here the bicycle path is quite narrow. My guess is if they redo it, they will make it wider again. Because if it's wider, that means that cars automatically sort of slow down because their path is smaller. So we have seen today and also in previous videos the crazy amount of distance that is given to the different parts. So what I mean is that sometimes you see that the road is totally red. Sometimes you see that only like a really small part is red, like 20 or so gray, like 20 centimeters. I think there's one area yesterday that was only like 20 centimeters, or they put special stones there, like the cobblestones, and in other areas it's a little bit bigger. It's like, I don't know, let's say a very slim width of a car that's gray, but the bicycle paths are quite wide. But here you see somebody using his bell. And I don't think it was necessary, because if you would do the back pedal, and I think on purpose I'm doing the back pedaling here later on when I try to pass these two, if I remember correctly. Or I already did it before, I forgot. But there was no need for him to use the bell. It was the first time we were actually hearing a bell in the video. I was not in a hurry. We're going about 21 kilometers an hour. So good speed. Oh, this one is clearly coming from the left. You could probably not see it, but he's not watching anything. And he's just assuming, which I guess is also a trust thing, assuming that we will work around him. And the same here, right? Cars could pass, but so we are now 4 bikes next to each other. And it's amazing. I'm not saying that some people don't pay attention, but they're doing things because they kind of already assume that others will take care of it. So the one coming from the right, like a minute ago, was kind of assuming, because he was going full speed, that I would brake if need be. And the same with them passing the other bicycles. Because we're talking in a group and they can't be bothered to basically be very precise, so they kind of assume and trust the other people on bikes and in cars, by the way, to do the right thing. So the self-regulating concept, I guess. So it's not about only following the rules, it's also about being flexible with the rules, I guess. And maybe more a little bit the intentions of the rules, not specific. I guess I don't pass them. Oh. But you hear me sometimes doing this backpedaling because I'm slowing down a little bit for them. Here I wanted to go on to the left, so I'm kind of positioning myself a little bit weirdly. I'm waiting until the lights go on to green. But you can hear with the tickers, right? I'm not sure if I ever told you, but you hear the tickers. If they go faster, it's green. I go this kind of weird route because I wanted to end up in the bicycle parking. You can see even if there's big bicycle parking ahead, there's still lots of bikes everywhere around the central station. In front of us you will find a bridge over that you can walk and also use your bike to get over to the other side of all the train tracks. And I also slow down here because there's somebody. And you also see, right, he just sort of cut it in front of me, assuming that... but you see here somebody going up the ramp really quickly. There he goes. And I slow down to show you in the picture. Just before we enter the... below ground, 12,000 spots bicycle garage. And inside we see also a girl, so you have to go for left if you want to go to the upper level and right to this level. And you see somebody braking, she slows before me I think, because she wants to fill up her tires. And there's also different pumps that you can use to fill up your tires. You can see that this camera, if you see the other camera before, is way better in the dark. See, she stops here to fill up her tires. So you can see that this camera is way better in the dark. Not perfect, but better. And we leave the below ground bicycle parking. So on my way to the slot zeist, I actually started over here, and that was the plan, but well, the plan didn't work out. Notice how many people are bicycling here, right? Well, there was lots on the other side, but you can't see them. But even then you will see that more than a few people are biking. It was still quite early, it was 11 something. So we'll probably get a little bit more busy in the afternoon. So I decided about here that I would add a small loop because I was still kind of frustrated about my recording. So I decided to add a small loop over the bridge that goes over the school, just to extend my my bicycle ride a little bit longer. Otherwise I would have stopped the video, but I was like, well, if people are still watching, let's leave it running. And again, also she's not really looking for bicycles. She's just running over the bicycle path and assumes that the bicycles will work around her. Which probably is not something you want to do in Amsterdam. I'm always making fun, and I think in general people do that rightly so, that in most Dutch cities the bicycle people are nicer. I think up front something happened with a little kid. I can't remember. Oh, it already happened. Maybe if we go back you see that I think food delivery was really careful with the kid crossing the road. We've seen this part before, but now at least I can compare it with the video of yesterday to see how the video now looks. But this is one of the quite busy bicycle paths inside Utrecht, and you notice that here they use the red and speed bumps, but also the grey cobblestones in the middle. And I think there's a Mercedes coming up, which is going too fast in my opinion. So these are going quite slow. You notice it, but I hope it was in this video. I think there was one coming up which was going way too fast, so if he would have hit me, then he would have been in trouble. The problem is I drive this so often that I sometimes forget what happened when. These small bridges, at night they have nice lights on them, and it's really nice to take pictures of them. There are several in this area. I think there it is. There's the Mercedes. It's going faster. You see? I would argue he was going too fast, and I had to not evade, but sort of like, okay, relax, dude. Again, deciding if I should skip her before we get the bollard. Yes, I will skip her. Speed up a little bit. So again, this is one of the most busy crossings for bicycles in Utrecht, weirdly enough. Doesn't look like it now. And now we are going over one of the smaller bridges next to water again, of course. And we are slowly getting to the area with the school and the bicycle path on the top of the roof of the school and going into the bridge. But now from the other side compared to yesterday's video. That looked dangerous. It was, let's say, I was doing a nice swerve, so it was not really dangerous, but it looks more dangerous than it really was. But you can see a lot of kids around. Keep in mind, I always try to remind people in at least one time in a video that the speed that you see on the camera is looks way higher than I'm actually driving. This has to do with the camera being lower to the ground. Yeah, I put it about stomach level. Because it's on my but normally in an American bike or even a Dutch bike would be about the height of your front light. That's where I put my camera, so it looks faster because it's lower than I'm actually going. I'm not a crazy person on a bike, which kind of proves you see in the let's say the real speed bikers, right? So the race bikes, you see that they're always going way faster than I'm going. If you missed the previous videos up ahead, they just changed the whole road again. So we now have to do the pre-selection box for the bicycles. So normally you would stand on the right. Now you have to stand on the left if you want to go straight forward. And lots of bicycle people are not used to that. And they're like, oh, they changed it because it was only like changed 2 days ago. over here. Okay, he's like, okay, I got to go here. Oh, I guess I have to go here. So you have to pre-select over here now. Before it was on the other side. And also they made quite big islands now in between, so that basically there's only like, now let us guess, 1.5 bike length, so about 3 meters of danger area when you're passing one of the roads. And you can see you need to do that 1, 2, and then of course for bike paths 3 times or 4 times total. So you can see quite busy all the way up to the bridge. Alright, this is quite funny. There's a bakfiets again, a box bike, and I was kind of wanted to stay behind there because it was fun to put it on the video. And then I figured there was no kid in there. It was just her shopping, but I'm not sure if you can see, but it was actually shopping and a kid next to it. So she went shopping with her kid, and there's the shopping is next to the kid, and the rest of the bakfiets is filled with the kid. Oh, you can see it, yeah. So that's how you do shopping on a bike. And on top of the school in Hogenal. And now we are leaving the school. We are over basically a car road, now over the water in a very busy canal. This bridge is called the Daphne Schippers Bridge, named after an athlete. We are entering the area, the new part of town called Leidschwein, where I live now. Again, here yesterday it was still closed, or the day before. He was going to the right, and I was like, yo, you can't go there, but he was right, it's opened up. So normally I would go to the right here and then take that way home. I decided now to go through the park, because I figured, well, it was fun to take that route. These two were actually driving quite fast. We are going down. It was like I wanted to pass them quite quickly before I went to the right. But they were going so fast that I really had to push the bike a bit. Because I want to have a little bit of room between me and them before I start hitting the brakes. I have very good brakes, so that's not a problem. So I want to go right here. So braking now. Going over there. So now entering the park, kind of. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's kind of interesting, nice little hills on top in there. And on top of the hills, they have an iron structure which actually swings. So you can go up there and swing, go on the swings, and it looks like you're really, really high up. You see them on top of there, around the trees. So you can go on the swings and you can swing and it almost looks like you're 50 meters off the ground. I expected a lot of people in the park, but there was nobody there. But again, it was still kind of early. Of course, if I'm bicycling through the park, which you're not supposed to do, or I don't think you're supposed to do that, I will be extra careful, especially for kids and dogs and stuff like that. But there was very few people who were skateboarding up ahead. And then I will stop the video, because we are entering my general living area. See, these two are skating, so I was keeping an eye on them. And that's the end. Bye bye.